What's up? So today we will be doing a different kind of video than my normal videos. Yeah, so today we will be reviewing Kamen Rider Double. All episodes, all 49, or the episodes that I actually watched. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy my review of Kamen Rider Double. Joker, Cycle. Henshin. Oxygen. So, hope you enjoy the review of Kamen Rider Double. Double. Okay, so Kamen Rider Double. The first episode starts off. It starts off in an agency at night where we see these two detectives and their chief all running from a monster, but the chief gets killed. But then one of the people is like, "Do you want to make a deal with the devil?" And then the other guy is like, "Wait, what?" So then they morph into Kamen Rider Double. Then 1 year later, we see this girl. We see this girl just walking down, where she runs into a detective agency run by Shotaro Hidari and a hard-boiled but actually half-boiled detective. And we learn that this girl is named Akiko Narumi, and she is the daughter of the chief who died at the beginning. And when she asks about her dad, all he can say is, "Yeah, he's not coming back." So then Shotaro, this is a detective agency, so Shotaro gets a case about a girl's missing boyfriend or friend who's basically just, disappeared. So that's when we meet Philip, Shotaro's partner and the second half of Kamen Rider Double. Because, second half. So Shotaro helps find his client, but the client has already been affected by the Gaia memories. But this one is not your normal Gaia memories. These are the ones distributed by our villains of the season, the Sonozaki family. Yeah, the Sonozaki family consisted of the main villain Ryube, his daughter Seiko, his other daughter Wakana, and their cat Mick, who's a cat. And Seiko is said to be married to a said to find herself a husband. Those are our villains. So Shotaro finds the client. He turns on the Gaia memory, turns into a monster. So Shotaro and Phil have to go. He's like, I'll stop you. And he's like, yeah, no, we will. And he's like, Philip. And Philip's like, Cycle. And then he's like, Joker. And then they're like, Henshin. And they turn it into Kamen Rider Double. And I gotta say, I love the double suit. The double suit is one of my favorite suits of all Kamen Rider. This is the actual first Kamen Rider series I've ever watched in full. But I love the double suit. Like, the double suit has so much like, the alterations of the other form of the double is really good. But for the first episode, we get the Kamen Rider Double suit. And, yeah. So, yeah. So they decide to fight the thing, but something comes out of nowhere and drags it away. So now they have to. So Marina, the girl who asked Shotaro to find her boyfriend in the first place, Shotaro discovers that she's the one who killed her boyfriend, their client, and she has a guy memory of her own, the T-Rex guy memory, and he's like, "Hey, stop it, put that away." But she's just because these guy memories use people's emotions and turn them against turn people evil. So they have to. So they turn into T-Rex. So she turns into a T-Rex. And Shotaro and Philip go, "Hito, Joker." And they go to Heat Joker and fight Marina. But then Milane, so Akiko has to carry Philip's lifeless body everywhere she goes, because that's the main thing of the joke, is that Akiko has to find Philip everywhere she goes. So then they go Hito, Megdala, and use their memory break to just destroy the now CGI T-Rex, and destroy and save Maya, destroy the guy memory, and save that day. And save the day. So in episode 3, what happens is that Shotaro and Philip get things about a casino that is attacking them. So then they get the money guy. We see a guy who has the money guy memory. That's one of the best. I agree. That's one of the best henshin phrases. We've got to have money. We got to have money. Get it? And then the guy turns into like a money themed monster and eats the guy. So Shotaro and Philip have to head into Kamen Heat Joker or Heat Metal to fight him. Right. I just forgot about the first episode, Luna Joker, but totally. We're on to this episode. So he destroys him. Akiko now gets trapped. He doesn't destroy him, but Akiko gets trapped in a museum where he's like, but then Philip's like, but then the guy's like, "Hey, if you can answer all my questions, I'll give you the money. But if you lose, I take your guy memory." So Philip starts winning, but then the guy starts making her questions, so Philip doesn't know them, so he starts losing some of his guy memories. But that's when Shotaro, the best guy, shows up and wins the competition. So he transforms into the money guy memory, and they're like, "Yeah, we try," and they're like, "We trust each other more," and they're like, "Cyclone, Joker," and fight him and defeat him. So in episode 4, episode 5. Episode 5. Episode 5. In episode 5, there are these people that with a mom and daughter who are totally trying to present a new tower. But it gets attacked. That's when Kamen shows up, and the girl says, "Papa." And that's when they say, and that's when they're like, "Papa." And it just keeps going out there. So they're like, "Papa." So he's like, "Papa." So, oh no, don't make it nursery things. Just kidding. So yeah, so Akiko's like, "Dude, I didn't know you were a dad." And he's like, I'm not a dad, Akiko. So there must be a reason why she's calling him dad. So the mom reveals that her father was killed by someone, and she to cheer up her daughter. She said that her dad is a superhero. So when Kamen Rider showed up, she thought that that's her dad. So yeah. And Shotaro was like, you shouldn't be tricking girls you shouldn't be tricking your child like that to make her think that the dad's still alive. So yeah. So this villain, the villain of this episode, has the Omiclorus guy memory, and he's using it, and he uses it to attack Shotaro and gang. But they're able to defeat him. So yeah. So also with the Sonozaki family, Psycho finally finds the husband that she's been looking for this entire time. His name is Kiriko. His name is Kiriko, and his name is Kiriko. And he has the Nausicaa Gaia memory, and we learn that Wakana has the Kagaido Gaia memory, and we learn that Rube has the Terror Gaia memory. So yeah, they all have Gaia memories. This family, they all have Gaia memories. This family all has Gaia memories. The show. So Kiriko teams up with them to kidnap the daughter, but they're able to defeat him and go on their merry way. So in episode 7, Philip has really been on the street dancer kick, so he basically just leaves the agency to go find the street dancer to learn Heaven's Tornado, because when he went to the Gaia library, the Heaven's Tornado book was locked, so he has to find out where Heaven's Tornado is. So that leaves him and Shotaro by themselves, because while Shotaro's fighting a monster, Philip randomly just leaves to find out this Heaven's Door thing. Just to move the tripod. Tripod moving time. There. Tripod moving time. Yeah. Goes to find the street dancer. So Philip goes to this high school where we see this guy try to find his friend who he used to do dancing with, but she quit the dancing game a long time ago, and then this monster comes trying to kill her, but then he reveals that long time ago, he and this girl used to be, I'm just gonna call it girl, he and this girl used to be like this greatest dancing duo ever, but then she quit to join a swim team. And when he questioned her why she quit, she didn't answer. So he found this online site, and he created like this cockroach pest extermination company, and sent a text saying that he wanted his friend to die. So now this cockroach is trying to kill her based on what he said, and when she finds out, she wants nothing to do with him. So Philip, still being obsessed with this whole red tornado, with this whole Heaven's Tornado thing, decides to lock them in the double car. I'm gonna call it double car. Locks them in there and decides to see. And then once they play their song, they become friends again. So I guess when two people hate each other, lock them in a room and they'll become lovers again. That's what Kamen Double taught me. But I also learned it from other stuff. So if you have a problem, lock yourself in a room with a girl, play whatever you like. Actually, don't listen to me. I'm just an 18-year-old YouTuber talking about love. So, tell me. just the YouTuber talking about love. And then Akiko gets a job as a... Yeah, so a bunch of people show up at the Narumi Detective Agency saying about how all people have been missing and they're all patients. So Akiko decides to... Akiko, love. I love that. Akiko, love. Wait, no. It's Akiko, love. She decides to show up at the Sonozaki family mansion and decides to be a maid there. And Wakana meeting Sonozaki, meeting Akiko is one of the best moments because she's Akiko, not even just love. I love her. She's my favorite female girl, female henshin Kamen Rider girl. So they discover that it's one of the maids who's actually the culprit, and she has the sweet guy memory and turns into this Candy Deadpool. Yeah, she turns into Candy Deadpool and eats them. And that's where they find the father of one of the maids of one of the chefs, and they rescue him and save the day, and they destroy the sweet's memory. And why did they make a Candy Deadpool? Basically, why is the monster of the week a Candy Deadpool? I have no idea why the monster of the week is a Candy Deadpool. It's just a Candy Deadpool. It's a Candy Deadpool. I have no idea why it's a Candy Deadpool in the first place. I'm just gonna... Welcome to the weirdest episode of Kamen Rider Double. So, yeah, the weirdest episode of Kamen Rider Double is the car one, where basically this car is infected by a virus and it starts killing anyone it comes and runs through. And it's later revealed that the person who the culprit is a girl in a coma. Yeah, it's a girl in a coma. A girl in a coma is the Gaia memory user. Because there's this gang that basically ran her over, and her brother. So her brother says that this gang basically ran her over, and she found out. But then Philip finds out the real answer is she found out that the husband that she was gonna marry was a con man and was marrying other women. So she decided to use this Gaia memory. But then when she used it, she couldn't control the dopamine inside, and the dopamine inside left her, and now she's in a coma. So now they've destroyed. The real dopamine shows up and kills the brother, because of course it does, and then goes after the con man, but he has no idea why. He's like, hey, you should apologize to your wife, to your fiance. And he's like, why do I have to apologize for it? Not realizing that she found out that he was conning her the entire time. So Philip decides to talk to her, and she goes crazy. She goes crazy and decides to put a vice stamp into her, turning herself into... decides to use viruses, putting herself into a vice stamp and attacking the guy, but he says, hey, save her. So they save her. She's still in the coma, but they destroy the Gaia memory, and the day is saved thanks to the Powerpuff Girl. I mean the Kamen Rider Double. What's up? Wait, no. So, in the next episode, we have a Wakana episode. Yeah, a Wakana episode. Because in this episode, Wakana is haunted by a stalker. And now Shotaro and Philip must get to the business. So, yeah, so a monster is basically stalking her, saying how yeah, first Akina uses the clay doll memory to destroy a guy that wants to fall in love with her. She just obliterates him. Literally takes her power and obliterates him. Obliterates. He dies. She kills him. And then there's this new guy that wants to fall in love with her. Yeah. And he... Yeah, but they're able to defeat him really quickly. So, yeah. So, yeah. Then next episode, Shotaro and Philip are just hanging out when this girl says that there's a person named Kamen Rider who is destroying the place. So Akiko basically does a superhuman jump and discovers that she used to be one of the Twin Roses, a criminal gang, but then her partner Kenji, I remember his name, decided to now he's the arms vice stamp to pretend to be Kamen Rider, decided to be Kamen Rider. So he kidnaps Philip. So he kidnapped Philip and Akiko, and that's when Psycho goes to visit Philip and reveals that his real name is Raito, and that's all we get of it. So he decides to. Shotaro tells Akiko that the last time Philip used the Fang memory, it made him go insane and made him forget that they were Kamen Rider double. So he vowed to never use the memory again. But now he's decided to use the Fang memory plus the Joga. And then even though Shotaro says don't do it, Philip goes Fang Joga and goes crazy, destroying all the villains. But he's about to hurt Akiko when Shotaro stops him, and he goes into Philip's mind to discover a burnt Gaia library and discovers Philip, and he's like, Philip's like, Shotaro, you would never forget me. And he's like, no, Ivo. And so he's like, who are we? And he's like, we are the 2-in-1 detective. So they get control of the Fang Joker memory and use Fang Strider to destroy the monster and save the day. So, yeah. So, in farewell end, Psycho's husband, Kiriko, who's been discovers a secret place in the Sonozaki mansion, and which we call the museum. Yeah, that's our villains for the season. They're called the museum. So Shotaro and Kiriko still have that rivalry where he wants to destroy him, but they end up bonding over stuff before they discover who they really are. And he's like, hey, bring on Fang Joker. And he's like, okay, but then Philip can't find Fang, so he's like, okay, let's just use Cyclone Joker. And he's like, so he leaves, and Shotaro's barber is like, dude, I need your help with my daughter. And he's like, she's gone missing. So they find the daughter, but she doesn't want to go with them until one of their friends uses the bird memory and turns into a bird thing. And this is where Kiriko is watching, and Kiriko sees all of them use the bird memory at once, and he's like, this isn't. And then one of the first kids who used it gets injured because one person's only supposed to use one memory, not all three of them, so they all get injured. So yeah, so then the second part, Narumi, the daughter, goes insane because Naru, the daughter, goes insane because she hasn't had enough power of the bird memory, so she uses it and flies away. So with the help of Kiriko, they save her life, and he's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, as I told you, I love Futo. So then he's like, hey, Psycho, why don't you come with me? But Psycho's like, no, I'm not doing that, and kills him. So he's dead. So then at the end of the episode, we see a new guy telling himself that he hates Futo. So yeah, this guy is Terui Ryu, and he's the secondary writer of the season who turns into Kamen Rider Axel. So he meets with a random woman in white, a random woman in white, who basically is like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm doing, and he's like, hey, here's your belt. And we know this woman is Shroud, so he gives her the belt. He does his first oxygen, oxygen, and turns into Kamen Rider Axel, fights the monster, who he thinks is responsible for the murder of his parents and sister, but it's revealed that they're not. There's someone great. There's a great evil out there that's really responsible for the murder of his sister and murder of his parents and sister. So he decides to fight. By the side of Kamen Rider Double for most of the season. I gotta say, so then there's a random episode where they have a music competition, where the two singers of Kamen Rider Double play judges. It's super cool. It's super cool that they got the actors of the Kamen Rider Double singers to play judges. They even sing the opening in the opening. Double PX crime in the city. Let's go. Welcome to Windy City. And genuine. Keyword of me. It's a castle. So yeah. So in that episode, the two high schoolers that Shotaro goes to for information sometimes asks for his help on a case where judges are giving this terrible sim Jimmy Naka making him win, but he's terrible. Even Shotaro and Akiko hate his music. So, but there's this admirer that is using this liar Dopan to basically use his needles to make everyone think Jimmy is good, so he'll win. Wrong, right? So yeah, so she keeps giving money to the Dopan, so the Dopan will make. She gives money to the Dopan, so he'll endorse Jimmy's career. But when Jimmy finds out that he's not a really good singer and she's been using him, he gives up on her, saying, "I never want to see you again." So then Shotaro runs after him, and he basically makes a joke about how if you don't give up your music, people will see me, a guy, running after a guy. So, yeah. Yeah. They will see that. They will. So, yeah. So, Philip and Shotaro played this really good song. And so, yeah. So, the judges hear Jimmy play, but some of them don't think he's terrible. So, yeah. So they save the person who is infected by the liar Dopan, and the day is saved. So, anyway, so after that episode, we have an episode about Akiko meeting, like, this little girl comes in. This little girl comes in and says that that her doll is possessed. Yeah. So it's revealed that it's actually a dope. That's actually this guy who's controlling his daughter's doll and uses the puppeteer guy memory. I like the voices. The voices of the guy memories are cool. And the guy who does the narrating for the double season does the guy memories voice. So yeah, so Ryu finally decides to go after the guy who killed his entire family, because the last thing his dad said to him was that says the W guy memory, and that thing is the weather guy memory. Weather. And they have been meeting with Psycho and Wakana. Wakana's a weird name. So they do a fight and blast him, but they're able to defeat him. So yeah. So meanwhile, in episode like 30, we see that Psycho decides to during a case. Psycho decides to get Philip or Raito out the double driver, and Philip dies, but doesn't really die because some bird comes in, swoops him up, and Shroud shows up and is like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, I have to get back to Philip," and he's like, "You should just leave Philip behind. You should just leave Shotaro behind, because Shotaro isn't your true partner. So, and if you don't leave Shotaro behind, there will be bad consequences." So yeah. So then Rube tells us that the bird is actually the part of the extreme memory, which will give our main character their final form, their final power-up form. So yeah, you obviously know what's going on there. So during a fight, Shotaro and Philip activate the extreme memory and turn into Kamen Rider, Joker, Cyclone Joker Extreme, and fight and defeat the monster. So yeah, but the next superpower is for Kamen Rider Axel, where Shroud decides to test. Shroud, who's been giving our main characters their powers from the beginning, decides to test Ryu and gives him the trial memory, which will turn him into Kamen Rider Axel Trial. So he fights the person that, after doing a bunch of tests, he fails, but that was really the test. To pass, he has to fail. I don't get what's up with Shroud's. Dealings, but okay. So he decides to go and fight the person that killed his parents once and for all, using the Triad guy memory, and turns into Kamen Rider Axel Trial. And his memory break final attack is really weird. It's just where he kicks the guy and does super fast punches. Okay, he defeats the guy who killed his parents, and he reveals that Shroud has been with the museum since the beginning, and blows up or dies. So yeah. So the next thing is about how they meet the person that erased Philip's memories to begin with. The guy who revealed his real name is Raito Sonozaki, Rue's son and Wakana's brother. So Psycho decides to betray the museum, and that's why they send guys after her. So now that Psycho has betrayed the museum, Rube's like, "Wakana, I want you to take up my place as my successor of the museum." But then But that's when she goes to Philip, unknowingly, not knowing that he's her actual brother, and goes to tell her. And he's like, we should run away together, not knowing that they're actually brother and sister. So they decide to run away together, but then Rube tells Wakana that she is the key to the museum, so she decides to betray Philip / Raito, and decides to betray him and decides to take him back to the museum. But they decide to go, and so Make the Cat who's been a monster this entire time. He sends him to kill Psycho, but Psycho's not really dead, and because why would they kill Psycho? Excuse me. Decides to send him to kill Psycho, even though Psycho's not really dead, and yeah. So they decide to go and fight the monster. But Philip has one. So they reveal that the Philip we've been following since the beginning isn't really a real person. He's just been Data, because the real Philip died when he was a kid and was absorbed by Data, and when he revived, he didn't have any memory of who he was, and he's been Data this entire time. So Philip henshins one last time, he'll become Data and go into the Earth. So they decide to use their one. So they decide to kidnap Philip, of course, with his real mom, Shroud, or Filme, his sister Psycho, his other sister Wakana, and his father Ryubei. Shroud decides to tell her side of the story about how she was Ryubei's wife, but he wanted to use Raito for his evil experiments, but Psycho wouldn't have that, but Filme wouldn't have that, so he tried to fight against Ryubei, but Ryubei used his terror memory to basically disfigure her face and mess up her face, so she's been wearing bandages ever since with glasses on them. I have no idea why she wears those, but okay. Can she see through the bandages? I have no idea. But she also had so since her face is all disfigured, she decided to put a chip in her larynx that made her voice all distorted. So she decides to leave. So it gets into a big fight where Psycho used the Nazca guy memory, and Wakana uses the clay doll guy memory. They get into a fight. Filme leaves. Philip is like, hey mom, where are you going? And she's like, the this is our family. And she's like, this isn't my family, but Shotaro Hidari is, or it's the trump card, so you gotta go back to him. So he decided to use his one last guy memory to turn into Kamen Rider Cyclone Joker one last time to defeat Ryubei. They destroy the terror memory. Ryubei dies in his house in his mansion as it's on fire, as he's reflecting on his times with his family. And yeah, so Philip decides to go up into the sky and sacrifices himself. So then 1 year later, Shotaro has been living a life without Philip. And yeah, some people should have said that should where the show ended. It should have just ended there with Philip sacrificing himself. But no, that's where I felt it could have ended. Like, I feel like that where the show could have ended. Me too. Where it could have ended with Ryubei's death and Philip's leave. But no, they had to bring him back. They had to do something with this episode So then they meet a kid the kid's for later, but so then Philip's last request was for Shotaro to give him the Lost Driver, which he uses, which has only one part of it, so he uses it, Joker, and turns into Kamen Rider Joker, and fights bad guys. Meanwhile, Wakana learns of Philip's demise and decides to sacrifice herself to bring Philip back to life. And so, yeah. So then Philip comes back to life, everybody. Yeah, he does. They bring him back to life so his actor can appear in more cameos in movies. So Philip back to life, they decide to bring him back to life. I don't know why. Like, they could have ended the show with him being, like, gone, but no. They had to bring him back to life. They had to extend this show one more episode by bringing him back to life. So anyway, we learned that Wakana gave up her life and decided to go with her all dead family. I don't know if Shroud's dead. They did have Kamen. They did have the guy with the Utopia guy memory kill Psycho, but we don't know what happened to Shroud. We see her with the guy. We see her with Philip in the guy library, but what happened to her? Like, is she dead? We know Ryubei, Psycho, and Wakana sacrifice are dead, but what happened to Shroud? It's never explained what happened to her. That's just one part of the show. They will never explain what happened to Shroud. So, yeah. So, the show ends with them fighting a monster. We get the theme one last time, and then they do their one last, let's count up your sins, and that's the end of Kamen Rider Double. I gotta say, I love this show. I love Akiko. I love Shotaro and Philip's relationship. The shocking development of Philip really being a family member to one of the villains of the season was really good. I liked Axel and how he had a revenge to want to kill the person who killed his family, and he eventually did. It's weird that they did the whole, they took when they blew up the weather memory, the guy flipped out of place to show the suit actor getting out of place. It was weird. But anyway, that's the end of Kamen Rider Double, and next time we'll be counting the medals as we go 1, 2, and 3 with Kamen Rider O's. And I gotta say, Akiko is my favorite. Akiko, love her. She's my favorite character. See ya. Cyclone, Joker, Finger, Joker, Kamen Rider Joker, Extreme, Trial. See you guys.